We brought in managers across all of our sites. We have just brought in now an in-house finance manager as well. I'm not stopping. I don't see at the moment an end point. Just so hungry to go out there and keep going.
So, Cara, thank you for coming back to tell us about what happens behind the scenes after you've bought a business. And you've heard me say before that buying the business is the more straightforward part. What happens afterwards is where the hard work really starts. So where would you like to start with this?
Well, post-acquisition. So if I talk a little bit around my first deal, I thought, it was all quite calm. The staff were sort of coming in as normal and everyday activity. And then probably about a week in, I get these phone calls that, such and such is not doing her job, or they're leaving early. They're not staying to the end of their shift to do work. People aren't cleaning. All those day-to-day things that you think, well, you did it last week prior to me owning.
And is this because the owner who's now left was managing that?
Yes.
And now, after a week, all those good behaviours had stopped?
Absolutely. And, I just assumed that people would carry on their normal day-to-day role. They're getting paid still. So the level of expectation hasn't changed. And I think, pretty much most post-acquisition for all of them have been pretty similar. That person's exited and, now they just think, I can kind of do what I want now,
Right. And I suppose you're not on site, are you? You're remote to them.
Yes.
So therefore they felt as though no one was watching them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it slowly, we slowly started to realise that actually, they need managers in place because we need to hold someone sort of accountable for the day-to-day. We started to have sort of some people go as well because they just didn't like the fact that we were going to bring in a manager and that their day-to-day...
Oh, you mean they didn't like the fact they were going to bring in a manager to make sure they did their jobs?
Yes.
Right, okay. So they couldn't get away with it any longer?
No.
Right, I understand. Yeah.
I upset their what they thought was their new routine.
Yes. Coming and going when they wanted, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but it's a different conversation when you say to someone, if you want to leave 2 hours early, that's fine. You can go 2 hours early, but I'll deduct your pay. And then it's a whole different thing then. So, so we brought in managers across all of our sites to make sure that, we had someone to hold accountable. And it just helps me to know that the day-to-day running of the salons run smooth-ish.
Very good. So that seems to be a very important thing. Otherwise, you are just going to be the person getting all the phone calls. And I think you were telling me before we hit record that was one of the situations, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Getting emails on a Sunday evening that there's something wrong in their pay, or they can't come into work tomorrow because of X, Y, and all these other requests that were coming in thick and fast. Plus, at the time, I was slowly working down my diary in the salon that I'd built up. So I was still a therapist at the time as well as having to manage all these new businesses and deal with all of that. So there were some very long days in the beginning.
So how did you remedy that situation? Because you can't go on for long with messages at the weekend. With of course, every message is going to be a problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not. No one's contacting you at the weekend to tell you good stuff. They're only contacting you to tell you the bad stuff.
Definitely. So one of the things I sat down was just had a look, wrote down on paper all the different jobs that I do or that happen in the salon, and then look at our company structure and look at where the gaps are, what our company structure has to look like now and the future as well, and then start to fill those positions. So we brought in HR. That was definitely the first part that we had to get in place. There was a lot more staff to deal with, and also sometimes the bigger you get, the complexity of the HR situations as well. well.
Yes.
And there's a lot around employment law, which, I don't know. I'm not an employment specialist.
And also with the new government and potentially those employment laws being tightened up in favour of the employee,
yes,
there's more things that can trip you up, aren't
yes.
there?
Oh, definitely. So that was definitely a function that we knew we had to put in place. So HR came on board. We put managers in. We have just brought in now an in-house finance manager as well to look after all the day-to-day admin and finance and bookkeeping and, making sure everything's paid on time.
So I guess there's a lot of transactions in your type of business, aren't there?
Oh, yes. And post. I never realised I didn't realise that people still sent that level of letters. So like all the post comes in centrally now. I mean, some of it is junk, but there's a lot of posts, and there was a lot. Some corporations and things like that still send out statements and things in the post.
Yes.
So it was just all before I'd sort of brought those people in. That I was dealing with that on top of my own diary, on top of acquiring more businesses, and so it was it was hard.
Do you have
work.
a PA?
I do have a PA. Actually, the original PA that I had from my first business, which I set up, actually now is head of my sales team. So her role has actually changed.
Very good.
And I do have a PA. She's not on site. She's outsourced. She's local, but she is very good at coming in. She comes in, she's quite scary, makes me sit in a chair, and I'm not allowed to move until I've signed things or I've done everything on her list, and then I can go.
Excellent.
So it's good. It's good for me.
Yes, it was good discipline, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
And I think having people like that who enjoy process and enjoy getting things right and attention to detail is so important, because quite often the entrepreneurial owner is not all about the detail. It's about the vision, the big picture. How do we make this happen as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
And they leave chaos in their wake. Not suggesting this is you,
I absolutely do.
Right.
Everyone doesn't like it when I'm in the office. They say, you come in, a whole storm erupts, and we all have to fix it. But in a good way. It's a good storm.
But you know what? I think that is what you bring to the party. That let's do things differently. Let's do things bigger. Let's do things better. But otherwise, everything goes, just follows the status quo. And I think that can sometimes see the decline of a business. It needs that visionary, look, we're at 7 salons now. How do we get to 25 as quickly as possible? It requires someone to break the eggs to make the omelette. Yeah,
oh, definitely. I mean, throughout the journey post-acquisition, people were saying to me, do you not think that's enough? Do you not think that's enough? And I'm like, no. And they're like, what's the end goal? I'm not stopping. I don't see at the moment an end point.
Yes.
I don't see what that number looks like at the moment. I just so hungry to go out there and keep going. So
what drives you?
I just love it. It's almost like a drug. It's exciting. I love business. I love my industry that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I think the future for beauty and aesthetic industry is amazing. It's going to become regulated, which is good. Not just for the consumer, but from a business point of view, because we can demand higher prices, because there will be a lot of people in the industry that will drop out because the level of qualification that
could
you
be good
have,
for acquisitions.
Absolutely. The level of work that you have to put in to get to your next level, certainly when you start injecting, it is phenomenal. So yeah, I can't stop.
So let's talk about some of these departments and how you are consolidating and rationalizing. So with the HR, for example, you've bought businesses where everyone's on different employment contracts. Have you got to the point now where everyone's on a standard employment contract, or are you working towards that?
Working towards that, more or less. To be honest, I don't know if it's just an industry thing, but when we've taken over, the contracts are fairly similar anyway, in terms of like non-competes, holiday thing and things like that. Pay has been a little bit sort of all over the place. So we're trying to have pay structures. So we're trying to have, if someone's a new starter therapist in the industry, they're paid this bracket if they then start going up in qualification. So it's actually more of a career path for the staff, which I know a lot of sort of solo salons and things like that don't have that.
So that could be very good for staff retention.
Yeah, definitely.
And also become more appealing to ambitious new recruits.
Yeah, definitely. So we've started putting that in place. Holiday has been a thing where some people's holiday run differently in the year, and a lot of those HR systems only let you run one holiday a year. Probably that's been the biggest
I bet you've
challenge.
had a few people trying to tell you that they're owed this holiday from last year.
Yes.
There was a bonus meant to be paid to me. And
yeah, we've had that. Oh, well, she said I could carry over like 15 days holiday, and yes, we've had it.
So with the finances, do you run one sort of consolidated system? Do you have everyone now on the same financial system?
So they run all individual legal entities, but they are all starting to amalgamate into one platform.
Okay.
So that we can just flick.
What do you use?
Between,
Xero or something?
Xero.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everyone can be on Xero, and then there's some really clever software that consolidates different Xero accounts.
That's correct.
I'm sure. Obviously, we know this. I know who your accountant is, so I'm sure he's onto that.
Yeah. So we use those now. We're starting to move all the payrolls into one, because at the moment we've got various different payroll companies, and then they all have it, and it's still quite heavily reliant on me to go in to sign them all off.
Oh yes.
So I need to make sure that if I do have a holiday, I can still access the accounts to sign everything off. So that we're looking at changing so that it's not reliant on me being there.
I tell you a great system I used to use that, and there are several out there like this, where your accounts person, your finance director, can decide that these are all the invoices that need to be paid, but maybe you're not yet at the point of giving them authorization to transfer money out of the bank account.
Yeah.
So they upload all of those invoices onto the system, and you transfer money from the bank account into the system, into the wallet.
Yeah.
And then you can allocate that money to those invoices and say, I'm going to pay that one today and that one today. And then just by clicking the button, you can approve the payments, but the payments are already set up. So the kind of the hard work is done by your finance director.
Yeah.
And then you can just say, right, we're going to pay those today. But you've still got that control, which I think probably at this stage you need to have.
Yes, I still, and whether that's me personally in my head still, or whether that is just still where we're at, I'm not sure. But I still like to have that level.
You need to know, because when you let people start spending your money, I know it's the company's, but it's your company.
Yeah.
When they start spending your money, then people will convince themselves that they need new office furniture. And you say, no, we don't need new office furniture. But it's too late because the office furniture has been paid for.
Yeah.
And if you don't retain that detailed control over the money, you'll find it will sort of seep out of the bank account, and you'll wonder where it's all gone.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the acquisitions we did, post acquisition, they had a way in which they order. So I was sort of like, okay, show me this system on how you order. And it was just on a rotation. So whether you need it or not, automatically, week 1, we order this, week 2, we order this. And I was like, for a small salon, it was thousands of pounds. And I'm like, okay, but why do you order that? And they're like, yeah, but because it says it on the rota. So not because there was a need. So having to actually take that back. So all ordering now is actually done in our head office.
I was going to say, do you centralise that?
Oh, yes, definitely. So all the orders come in, and I yes or no them before they're done. And that was, a huge thing. That kind of caused a lot of probably upset in the salon level, because they were used to having all this stock, and I'm like, no, we don't order like that.
It's all very well ordering things so you don't have to pay for them.
Well, and I'd be like, well, I've got to balance the books. I've got to pay the wages. We've got to make sure that we keep trading day in and day out. So definitely that's one thing that we we have bought back in-house.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important. And again, I've seen this where you give people too much free rein. For example, you might give them one of these charge cards that has a set limit. Let's say they've got a limit of £500 a month. Well, they will spend £500 a month. And I had this in a business where everyone had these cards and everyone was spending £500 a month. So I said, I wonder what would happen if we just reduced it to £250. Now, everyone spent £250 a month, but we'd halved the expenditure and no difference. You wouldn't notice the difference, except that there were cupboards full of things that they didn't really need.
Oh, yeah. And I'm quite, when I go out to salons now, I do rummage through cupboards.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I do. I definitely, do.
I put the stock in the back of the car and take it to the next one. Yeah.
Well, we do. And that's because our internal booking system now, so the booking system that we have in our industry, we have now across all sites. So I can flick in between each, and stock can be transferred from salon to salon. So rather than actually putting through a separate order now, if that salon's got 10 of that particular product, I'll get them to ship it over to that one and we can transfer it.
Absolutely.
So in terms of, bringing our costs down overall as a group, we've saved thousands.
So just out of interest, you've gone from sort of 150 to 1.3 million. Could you have done that with your own site? Could you have ever got to that level of sales, annual sales, with where you were?
No.
By sort of organic growth, more adverts, hiring some more clinicians? No, definitely not.
I think I would not be on this earth by the time it reached to that.
So really, the only way to get this growth, and the reason I ask is because so many business owners are focused just on organic growth, hiring more salespeople, running more ads. And there's certainly a benefit to that. There's no reason why you would not do that. But if you want rapid growth and you don't want to spend 10 years of your life on the organic, and you want to do it may have taken you a decade to get to this point. Without the acquisitions. So the acquisitions are shaving off years and years of effort, but getting the same result.
Definitely. And I think another thing post acquisitions, or a lot of the reason why I wanted to go into acquiring businesses, was cash flow. Mm-hmm. So when you're sort of on your own, or you've got a small team and you don't have a huge turnover, I think all business owners at some point, cash flow or is always an issue. And I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear the sleepless nights of thinking, oh my gosh, are we definitely going to sustain that level of sales this month? Am I definitely going to meet payroll? And I couldn't bear it. So now with the group and all the different things that unlocks and the multiple cash flows, I don't have as many sleepless nights.
So if you have a quiet month in one location, it's made up for elsewhere.
Definitely, yeah.
I'd say something to look out for though, and I'm sure that I'm teaching you to suck eggs on this one, but if you must be really aware if one location is struggling, but you give it a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance, and it starts to drag down the others. So you're sucking the profit out of the performing ones to prop up the underperforming, and then suddenly everything's underperforming because all your attention is on the underperforming. You ignore the performing, suddenly the performing aren't performing. and it's a downward spiral. So it's segmenting your risk. I know you've done that with your corporate structure, but taking a long, hard look to make sure each one can stand on its own 2 feet.
Yeah, definitely. And we're probably going through a little bit of that now. One of the salons that we bought, only little, it was just pure, it was a good buy in terms of where it was located to make our Surrey group bigger. It has had a lot of staffing issues. So some of the other salons are having to carry it at the moment. And this has happened twice since I acquired it.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, this is the last push that I'm prepared to give it now.
Right, okay.
Because like you said, it does start to impact on the others. My focus from my top performing salon shouldn't suffer because of one that is it worth salvage?
But if you look at any group, whether it's retail or any group that has multiple locations, they are constantly trimming the portfolio. So they're acquiring new ones, but letting go of the weak performers.
Yeah.
And that's why, for example, Boots the chemist is constantly going through a restructuring where as soon as a lease comes up and a poor performer, they let that one go.
Yeah.
And this is where managing by numbers really makes a difference. Because if you're in that salon every day, then you know everyone's life story and you're attached to them, and you don't want them to lose their job, so you want to give them a second chance, a third chance. But you might make those emotional decisions to the detriment of the business. Where you're at head office looking at the numbers, you say, well, look, this just isn't performing. And in 30 days, it hasn't turned around, then we need to just let that one go. But that's okay, because you're acquiring as well. So what happens is the portfolio is like an accordion. It expands and it shrinks a little, and expands and it shrinks a little. But what happens is you end up with all top performance. So that's the outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is what, when I spoke about in the first episode about mindset, it's like not allowing you to become personally involved in the day-to-day of that salon, and looking at it strategically and from a business point of view.
Yes. So this is an evolutionary process. There's a constant evolvement of the business. It never stands still, does it?
No.
But are you taking time for yourself as well? Are you carving out personal time where the team can't disturb you?
Yeah, it's getting better. Last year I got married at the end of the year. Yes. So I'm trying to spend time with my husband. It was quite funny actually, because when we started acquiring was the time we were getting married.
Right.
And I literally had set aside some money for the wedding, and then decided that a good deal would come up, and went, I might need to use some of that money, because
it's an interesting start to married life.
We've been together a long time, so it's okay. And he's like, you know what, do whatever. You know, it doesn't matter where we get married or what it looks like. So yeah, I am trying to spend more time out of the business as well. We do own a house out in France, so we do try and get out there a few times a year, and it's actually really good anyway, because I find when I go out there, that's when a lot of the ideas come, because I'm not caught up in the day-to-day, or everyone's sort of asking for my time. I can actually reset and
100%
think about the future. So
getting out of the business is just, because have you been to one of our Marbella retreats?
No.
Oh, you'd love that, because it's out of your business for 3 days. It's in the sunshine in Marbella. It's with 100 people who, again, like-minded, positive, good food, nice glass of wine, sit and watch the sunset and think about the future of your business. And I think too few business owners do something like that. They don't get out of the business, and they let the business start to drag them down, because they're hearing all the negative stuff, because they haven't delegated. I mean, you've built a management team and you're continuing to build it. So that doesn't affect you so much now. But just imagine if you were the point of contact for everyone. That would just be a killer, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. And it was in the beginning, in early acquisitions, post sort of the first 3, I was still that person.
Yes.
And it was like, there were afternoons when I come home at 3:00 in the afternoon and got into bed. And literally just said, I need to just go to sleep.
Yes.
I need to shut off. I need to have
so your
no
brain
phone.
was overloading with all of the issues and problems that other people had just put onto you.
Yeah, definitely. So there were times like that. And I think I do definitely invest now in sort of regular hypnotherapy sessions and
for relaxation.
Yes, and to just let go. And I definitely start to plan my holidays in the diary now. Even if I don't have anything booked, I think, okay, that point I'm going to do something for a week or 2, and I have started to get stricter. My PA actually start to build my calendar on a day-to-day basis and put those in. So
I do the same around school holidays.
Yes.
So I block out the school holidays a year in advance, and then I make sure, as far as possible, it doesn't always work, that I'm not doing anything that crosses those school holidays, and that sort of carves out. In fact, actually, my daughter seems to have so many school holidays, it carves out like half of the year. So it's not completely practical to not work half of the year for me. But is that otherwise what happens is that you're trying to squeeze the holidays in around the work.
Yeah, definitely. You wait till they grow up and leave school. You can then get them in the business, which is what I'm. Oh yeah, which my daughter's been helping throughout the holidays now. She's finished school.
Okay.
So she's definitely involved in.
That's really good. A good business education as well.
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
So people watching this, and maybe for some people, this might have been the very first video or podcast of mine that they're watching, or maybe they've been watching me for a while and have been thinking about Mastermind. Do they join Mastermind? Now, you've been part of the program for a year. I think you did your first acquisition within
3 months, I think it was.
Within 3 months,
Yeah.
within 3 months of starting. But you got started immediately. I have to put that out there, that you took action and you got on with it. You didn't procrastinate. You wanted to make this work. You followed the system. And here you are today, just over a year later. So what would you say to people who are thinking, do I join Mastermind? Is it worth the investment?
Definitely. I think if you if you put your investment into it, I've done some free things in the past, not necessarily about business acquisitions, but in business things, and they've been free. You don't apply the same mental attitude or time to it because you haven't invested.
You're not so committed.
Exactly. Whereas this, you are committed, you have invested, and therefore the process you've already done, you've already laid it out. So just follow it. It's literally,
we've done the hard work for you.
Exactly. It's literally like being in a classroom. You need to just work through those lessons, and you will, if you follow it, you will get the result. It does work. You've got me and you've got lots of other successful deal makers. The process does work. You've got to be committed and apply the time to do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even take hours and hours of time either.
No, I mean, it's a question actually I get asked a lot. How long does it take to buy a business? And some people think it's like a full-time job to buy a business, but it isn't, is it?
No, definitely. I mean, I was still doing I was still in the treatment room doing treatments and everything else, in and around, going out, visiting businesses and having those meetings. And, I didn't feel like I was running around or stressed out doing it. I enjoyed the process as well. Like it is fun going out, and you equally pick up other ideas as well that you can bring back.
Absolutely.
So, it definitely doesn't take hours and hours of time. So, I would say definitely commit.
Cara, thank you for coming in. Let's do this again in 1 year's time and find out what you've been doing since. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.